All right, welcome back to my channel, Fear the Northman. I'm excited you're here. I'm super pumped about this episode. When I started this channel, one of the main goals that I wanted to do was interview other entrepreneurs, people who were far more successful than me or had a longer lifespan in working for themselves. And through the providence of God, I had a great opportunity to interview my wonderful uncle, Jeff Norris, who has been a door-to-door salesman for, I think, over 40 years now. Yeah. And we're just going to talk real quick about some highlights. The mechanism of how Uncle Jeff does business is different than how the mechanism of what I do as a handyman. But the core, which is what's most important, is really the mentalities or the mindset. And you will not find a tougher door-to-door salesman than my uncle. And I'm super pumped about this video. This is fantastic. He's also going to give a little bit of his testimony, which is, I think, going to be pertinent for what we're talking about. So, but without further ado, this is my Uncle Jeff. Jeff, do me a favor. Tell us about just you getting started in door-to-door sales when that first happened, when you really said, hey, I want to do something different.
Read about an idea in a book.
Okay.
On painting people's house numbers on the curbs in Lebanon, Indiana in April of 1981.
Okay.
And went out and the Lord gave me an approach, formed an approach, and went out and started asking people and telling people we're going to be doing it.
By the way, how much were you charging in 81?
$5.
$5.
A curb.
Just so you know, I paint house numbers on curbs still from time to time, and I charge $15. Uncle Jeff, tell him what you're charging him now.
$18.
He's a little more expensive than me, so if you want the cheap, you go to me. You want to pay more money, you go with Uncle Jeff.
You're not cheap. You're not cheap.
But go ahead and keep going. Sorry.
Well, yeah, it took off from there. We were in about a half a dozen towns in Indiana.
Okay.
Then I had all these people committed because they'd already paid me in advance, trusting we'd paint their number. And then I got into Danville, Illinois, and Urbana in Illinois, and then here we're living in Lebanon. All these people were committed to paint, and so I'm driving back home every night. Yeah. So we flat out had to move to Illinois.
Got it.
Because I had all these people committed to paint their curb. And then
so you effectively moved to Illinois because it was
wealthier.
Got it.
Because of the curbs.
Got it. Okay.
And made the mistake of staying at $5 a curb. Could have gone, should have gone, would have gone if I had to do over more than that. Anyway, and been in several counties in Illinois doing this. And up to right now.
So at one point too, because you got my father into it as well. By the way, at some point I'm going to interview my father, Pastor Jeff Norris. I've been a pastor for a lot of years, but he hit a wall at some point. And Uncle Jeff, it's so important. This is real quick, and I'm just going to get back to Uncle Jeff because he's what matters in this video. I've said this before. We have to see others many times succeeding before we can see ourselves succeeding. It's just the way we are. It's our human gregarious nature. Right. My dad had hit a wall, and his older brother, my Uncle Jeff, had helped him and given him a strategy to start winning and sort of get free while also generating cash for his family, which is that's important to men. Men need to provide. But I will interview my father, but my dad got freed in a lot of ways because of Uncle Jeff. So at that time, though, you got Dad into flashers. Right. Talk a little bit about flashers.
Well, the idea came to me in March of 1988. The guy...
By the way, in 1988, I'm 4 years old. I was born in 84.
Oh, okay. All right. A guy saw this on TV about the flashing light that would cause the light to flash for people needing 911. And he thought of me because he knew that I was painting curbs.
Wow.
And introduced the idea to me. Long story short, I started selling the flashers in East Peoria that year, 1988. And was very successful. People loved the idea. It's an emotional idea.
Yes.
And people loved it. And then Kim heard about it. I introduced it to him, and he was humble enough to take the approach and utilize his personality in it. And he took off and did very well in it as well.
So just real quick with the flashers.
Right.
So painting house numbers on curbs and flashers. The concept is it makes it easier for emergency vehicles to find you. Now this may sound a little bit strange in our day and age with navigations on this stuff, but I can tell you a personal story. Right. My son got out of the bathtub, the floor was wet, he slipped, hit his head, was crying so hard he passed out. My wife got scared, called the police. The police went to the wrong house. Yeah. And that's in this day and age where cops got nab and everything. Yeah. Right. So think back in the 80s before, nowadays we got everything on our phone, right? Yeah. So think back before that, the idea of a flasher where you could tell the police,
Yeah.
come to the house with the flashing light,
Right.
that's a great security measure, because the truth is the vast majority of emergency vehicles, they find the homes very quickly. But on the off chance that they don't, your percentage for injury and or death goes through the roof, because when you're really hurt, seconds matter. So it was at the time a really valuable concept to help emergency vehicles find you. Right. So a lot of people got into it.
Right.
Uncle Jeff was at one point, I think Dad said 100. How many were you selling a week?
100.
100 a week on average.
Yeah.
And then what was that margin for you on average? Because obviously you had to buy the flasher.
Yeah.
But what would you say, 20, 25 bucks?
Well, I was selling them at that time for $22, $2,200 for the week. And so with expenses and all that, so the average amount of money taken in was about $1,900 when I first started.
$1,900 a week, just going out, moving and shaking. About what time would you start daily?
About 10.
10 a.m. Why?
Sometimes earlier in the summer, because in the summer people are out in the yard.
Yeah.
Well, 10 o'clock is a pretty good, reasonable time to start, because most people are out of bed at 10.
Yeah.
Some people sleep, work nights.
Yes.
And they're not smart enough to put a sign on the door that says daytime sleeper, and I wake them up sometimes. So anyway, start at 10, and I always stop at dark, and,
Yeah.
give me enough time.
What's interesting about that is, we live in a day and age where a lot of people are saying, how can I, what can I do? I don't have the ability.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm telling you right now, my uncle is, he is far too aggressive to be a liar. He was making six figures. He's making six figures in the late 80s, early 90s, knocking on doors. Right. Okay? Right. I'm going to say that again because this is important to understand.
Yeah.
My uncle, who's now 76, was making six figures. He's been making six figures for some time. But he was making six figures in the late 80s, early 90s, knocking on doors starting at 10 a.m. Why did I say that? Don't tell me you can't do it. Don't tell me you don't have what it takes, you don't have the skills, so you don't know the people. Yeah. Uncle Jeff went to towns he's never been in. He moved to another state to do it. And you were talking about, he loves Vincent Lombardi, he's going to talk about Vincent Lombardi. But one of the things that you said was mental toughness. Go ahead and expand upon that.
Well, people have to start off with the idea, they have to pray and believe and ask the Lord, just what is it that I am good at? Yeah. What is it that I enjoy? What is it? Yeah. And then have the motivation and courage to step out, even though people might be scared about it. Yeah. But everybody is gifted with something to do.
Yes.
And then after finding that out, then he'll show you how to market it and how to merchandise it.
How to maximize it.
How to approach people about it. The thing about what I've done is it's such a simple thing, and it's so simple to introduce to people, and the simpler it is, the better. So yes. I'm not saying everybody needs to go door to door. Yeah. But find something that people can fall in love with and be passionate about. And that's what sells people. Yeah. People see that enthusiasm, they see that integrity, they see that passion, they want to know more. Yes. And then it's a matter of communicating that more to the individual.
I like what you said, though, when we were talking earlier. You said that you don't, there's been days you woke up and you didn't feel like going.
Oh, yeah. No way.
But your exact words were, I'm going to not let how I feel control me.
That's right.
Expand on that, because we live in an age right now where everyone's anxious or fear and anxiety this, it's all garbage. Right. Talk more about that.
Well, again, if people have the depth of their belief in them and the faith and the enjoyment of what they're doing, that supersedes and takes over the feeling part, the flesh part.
Yes, yeah.
And then when people meditate on the fact that, hey, there's people out here that need me, they need my services. Yep. Then I don't care how I feel. I'm not selfish enough to sit here and worry about me. I need to think about them, the people out there. And plus,
you build wealth that way.
Plus the fact I'm motivated to not only help them. I'm not earning no money's in my pocket sitting on the couch. Today. Yeah. And I'm going to feel better. The feelings catch up to yourself after you get.
That's right.
After you get out there. Yeah. The stupid feelings, you never go by how you feel. Yeah. But sometimes you feel real and for you. And other times you never go by that. They're very fickle.
Go by what you choose.
You go by what you believe and what you
So I talked about this earlier. The mechanisms are different. And I talked about this before on my channel. I want to make an average of $250 a day. Yeah. Whether I do it with one job or 5 jobs, my goal is a daily revenue. My Uncle Jeff, a wildly different approach. I think is actually way more confident. It's actually way stronger. And I love what he says about the dollars taking care of themselves, but Uncle Jeff is more unit-based.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's important is this. Before we can do anything, we have to first ourselves see us doing it, but then also, too, we have to, it really has to connect.
Yeah.
If we're unsure about it, it won't really work. So for me, it was really easy for me to zero in on $250 a day after cost dollars. Of course, that's before taxes, but if a job cost $300, $50 went to cost, I wanted to make $250 for me.
Right.
My Uncle Jeff takes a wildly different approach. Go ahead and just expand on that about being more unit-centric, and then the dollars taking care of themselves. And I'm going to turn this camera real quick, guys, so we just get more of my Uncle Jeff in here.
Well, again, if people are in love with what they're doing, if they have a strong conviction about what they're doing, if what they're doing they've bought themselves, you can't market something that if you don't believe enough in it yourself to own it yourself.
Yes.
You shouldn't even be, you're a phony then.
Yeah.
If I'm at a car dealer that's selling Lincolns,
Yeah.
and if I'm selling Lincolns, I should not be driven a Chevrolet.
Yeah.
Because if somebody asks me when I'm selling them a Lincoln, what are you driving? Am I going to lie and say a Lincoln?
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to him. I'm
Yeah.
going to say Chevrolet. And if I say Chevrolet, he's saying, well, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
See? So you got to be legitimate.
Yes.
You got to be honest.
Yes.
Then you can forget about yourself.
Yes.
When you forget about yourself and focus on what you're doing, the product, the people, then the money will take care of itself.
Now you're talking. Now what you just said is a higher concept.
Yeah.
What I want to you to expand upon is the nuts and bolts of the per unit that you needed to hit a day,
Yeah.
where you felt good within the time you were going. The reason why that is because I think there are people that'll watch this that will conceptualize their business the way you do.
Yeah.
Which is you don't care about the dollar. He doesn't care about the dollars,
No.
guys.
Yeah.
He just told me
Yeah.
15 minutes ago the dollars take care of themselves. All he cares about is the units. That's an
That's
entirely different way of thinking about business
And the reason
than what I do.
The reason I don't is I don't think about myself.
Okay.
If you can not if, but when we focus
Got
on
it.
the people and focus on them and what's going to serve them and help them, the money will take care of itself.
So for you remove self, which is that's a that's a whole other
That's why
a whole other hour-long video. That's amazing.
That's why I don't think money is about self.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about self and money, then I'm going to be selfish.
Yeah. But so you remove yourself, and then
Yeah.
you take yourself out of the equation.
Yeah.
And then you give yourself a target, 15 units,
Yeah.
whatever that target is.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
And is it
Well-
in a certain amount of time, or is the target goal however long it
Okay,
takes?
thank you. Yeah, it's all about time and numbers. I really don't think too much about the units.
Okay.
All I think about is the time.
Okay.
And that's why I got to start early. You got to start early in the day. That's the best time of the day is early in the day. I start early in the day, and then I know at the end of the day, I start with the end in sight. Actually, before I start, I'm visualizing the end of that day.
Got it.
Visualizing that I'll have 15 or 16 units.
Perfect.
But
Which equates to $250, $300 in your pocket.
whatever
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
right. So, the time and the numbers, if I have enough time and I see enough people, the numbers will take care of itself.
Man, that's powerful. Now, guys, again, that's a different way of thinking than how I think. But that is a discipline that's very important. And if you're more of an X's and O's guys, X's and O type guy or gal, what Uncle Jeff is suggesting is really a way to think about. Think about the units. At one point, you broke down each door knock was like $1.50 or $2. Even they said yes or no, whatever they said. Every door knock he was making $2.
And then I quit thinking that way because then if I start thinking that way, I start thinking inwardly.
Got it.
I got to think outwardly.
Wow, that's crazy. That's
I
awesome.
never think about the money because if I do, then it's not good.
So one thing you said, and we're going to wrap it up, but I wanted you to talk about this because Uncle Jeff, 3 things big time in this video that are awesome. One, don't tell me you can't do it. I'm sitting next to a man that was making 6 figures now for possibly as long as I've been alive, knocking on doors. So don't tell me you can't do it. Number 2, mental toughness. You just got to be mentally tough. You got to go out and get it. If you take Uncle Jeff's approach and focus on the units, focus on people, the money will take care of itself. Now, that's a powerful position. If you're not there yet emotionally and mentally, take my approach. Have a dollar amount you want to hit on average and build up to it. Don't swing for the fences. Just get on base. That's how you want to get started.
To follow up with Zach here, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
The key, the whole thing to all this is being honest.
Yeah.
You got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Now, if you think you can't do it, like you were just saying, then you can't do it.
Yeah.
And no one,
Reform.
including me, is going to sit here and try to convince you that you can do it.
Yeah.
You got to humble yourself.
They got to get it for themselves.
You got to humble yourself.
Yeah.
And before God, the Lord,
Yeah.
if you are hungry enough, if you're not wanting to win, and if you like the self-pity and all the depression, then you should keep that.
Yeah.
But if you want to change in your life,
Yeah.
then that's a decision only the individual can make.
That's true.
You know?
Now, what I really want to touch on real quick, though, before we wrap it up, is you said something about Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and all these old greats and how they weren't struggling. It was silky smooth. They weren't sweating. It was easy. Right. They were out there.
You know why?
Go ahead and expand on that.
I'll tell you why. Yeah. Because Larry there in Little French Lick, Magic knew in the summertime, Magic said to himself, I better get out there because I know Larry's shooting 600 and 700 jump shots per day.
Yeah.
They all put the work in.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't about a personality. This isn't about charisma. This isn't about intelligence.
That helps.
What this is about is people got to be committed.
Yeah.
And Larry, I'm talking Larry, or Jack, or Nicholas, or Oscar.
Yeah.
Oscar went to bed at night with a basketball, and his mom, who was downstairs, the floor below, in that shack they lived in. Oscar went to bed.
You're talking about Oscar Robertson.
Dribbling that basketball before he went to sleep.
Yeah.
And she knew that when that ball stopped,
he was asleep.
He was asleep.
Yeah.
So these are the people that I'm talking about that were committed to win.
Yeah.
And they paid the price to win.
Yeah.
And they worked.
Yeah.
They worked.
100%.
More than anybody else did.
What's interesting about that, though, is that sounds grueling, but really, the fact of the matter is that when you put that work in and when you put that belief in, it is silky smooth. You aren't struggling. It just flows. When you put yourself, you pay the price, it just flows and it comes to you.
That's right.
So, thank you, Uncle Jeff. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I want to do more of these with entrepreneurs, guys. Uncle Jeff is a testament, one, to really how great America is, because you can just go out and do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But then number two, don't make excuses. Guys, I've said this before in my videos. My dad gets mad at me when I say it.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm dyslexic. I'm a dumb shit. I started a business cleaning gutters. I'm a king. Uncle Jeff's been knocking on doors.
Yeah.
He's not a brain surgeon. I'm not a rocket scientist.
Right.
We're winning.
Right.
We're winning right here. We're multi-generational winning. You can win too. You just have to reach out for it.
You got to make the choice.
That's right. Find a guy like Uncle Jeff. Find a mentor who can sow into you ideas and how. When I started my business, I actually called Uncle Jeff because I was doing what he was doing. Still, it's grown a little bit now. But anyways,
that's the thing too. You got to be teachable.
Yes.
You got to be humble.
Yeah.
You can't be sitting here thinking you know it all, because the old adage is, it's what you learn after you know it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So don't be thinking you know it. You got to be humble and say, I want to learn this. I want to learn that. And remember, Coach Lombardi, 5 championships in 8 years. Yeah. And those players hated his guts during that time, but that was 50, 60 years ago. Yeah. But today they all love him.
Of course.
Because of what he's taught them about victory and success.
Yeah, and basics.
So what I'm saying is, it's not going to be easy.
No.
Anything that's worth the price. It wasn't easy for a Larry shooting 600 and 700. Yeah. But the rewards come with those who pay.
The dollars take care of themselves.
Pretty basic stuff here.
Guys, if you've liked the content, like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you hated the content, do me a favor, send it to someone you hate.